come out in search of autumn this morning, and I think I found it. So I'm down at a place called Holne Bridge, which is the River Dart, up on the edge of Dartmoor. It's looking very autumnal this morning. There was promise of mist in the forecast this morning, but there hasn't been any yet. And if there's no mist here on the river, there's not going to be any mist anywhere else. So I decided to come down here. Trees are in full colour at the moment. We're still at the end of October, so there's plenty of life left yet as far as colour goes. Now, for a little change, I'm shooting digital today. So all you film lovers out there are going to be like, oh no. But yes, it's a digital shoot today. The river's flowing pretty fast this morning, and it's got this, it's got these little bubbles running through it. And what happens if I use a long exposure and a polarizer, I'm hoping to get some nice trails going through the water. That's the plan. Got to watch my footing here because it's really slippery. So this is my location this morning. So I've got Holne Bridge here, and what I'm hoping to do, I'm going to take a couple of shots here. So one using the bridge as a frame, so at the top of the frame, and then framing that view beyond. Hoping to use a longer lens, probably my 70-200 as well, just to zoom through past the bridge. But also I've got these lovely mossy boulders on the shoreline here, covered in sort of autumnal leaves. I think with a polarizer that'll really boost the saturation up here. It's quite overcast this morning, which is good. It's kind of what I wanted. I don't want any sort of bright sky at the top of the frame in any of these shots. So this is kind of ideal conditions for an autumn shot. I'm using my polarizer this morning. This will come into its own for this. Now, believe it or not, a polarizer, even if there's no direct sunlight, it works a treat in these conditions. I'm just sort of spinning it round in front of my eyes at the moment, and you can see already how it takes the glare off the water, takes the glare off any foliage in the trees, and just increases the saturation and contrast overall. So yes, I'll be using this morning. So I'm using my Sony A7R II. I'm just checking the composition, and like I say, checking the exposure reading. I'm already down to 2 seconds. That's without any filters. So I'm shooting at ISO 100 f16 it'll be for this sort of wider shot. So this is my first composition, and you can see I'm shooting at f16 at the moment, ISO 100, and it's already 6 seconds. But if you notice the histogram, it's banked over to the left hand side, so all my shadow detail is basically clipping. So I need to increase my exposure. If you watch that histogram sort of level out a bit, it's around 15 seconds. You notice there's a slight clip on the right hand side, which is the top of the sky and this water here. Now as I turn my polarizer around, you can see how it takes the glare off the water in the foreground. So that does away with that problem, but I've still got this little bit of highlight here, and obviously in the sky as well. So I think I'm probably going to have to take a couple of shots and blend these together just for that sky portion. So I've taken 3 exposures now. Taken one exposed for the mid part of the scene, so that's the view through beyond the bridge, this foreground and the bridge itself. I've taken another exposure, a little bit more exposure for the water because it's quite black, especially with the polarizer on. And then I've taken another exposure for the sky, so I've brought that histogram right down so it's not clipping the edge on the right hand side. The sky's got no detail as such, but I don't want it to sort of blow out completely. And then I'll blend all 3 together. So I've moved to the other side of the bridge now. Got this nice little scene here with this tree overhanging the bank and then the fence line behind. So I'm going to nice tight crop on this. But you also notice this foamy sort of stuff on the surface of the river going through. So what I'm hoping to do is get part of that in the bottom of the frame and then get an exposure around sort of 1 second, 1.5 seconds, which will record that as a sort of blur going through the bottom of the frame. So I'm just waiting now just for the right amount of foam to come through on the top of this river. Every now and then you get a nice pattern come through. There's a bit coming up now. Like I say, it'll record that as a blur going through the bottom of the frame. Here we go. 1.3 seconds. Yeah, that's it. That's what I was after. So I've slightly moved position now. Same subject but slightly wider, so I've tilted the lens down a bit, got a lot more of the river in the foreground. And I've got some of these patterns coming through now. And basically I'm trying to get the streaks. That's better. So the streaks in the bottom of the water are almost kind of at a diagonal to the fence line. So it's kind of got that triangular effect, which looks quite effective. I've slightly increased my aperture up to f16, which has brought my shutter speed back to about 3.2 seconds now, and it's just long enough. I'm getting some nice big clumps of this foam stuff going through, so that's working quite well. So I'm finding much better compositions on this side of the bridge. Got this lovely little section here with the arches of the bridge, a little bit of the river beyond, and there's some nice colour up in the left hand side and above the top here, framing the bridge. Again, similar technique here, so I'm waiting for this foam on the top of the river to come through, just to give me enough of a pattern in the foreground in the river. Yes, that's nice. Actually, that polarizer is really boosting up the colours as well. Looks quite nice. Much happier with this side of the bridge, got to admit. It's much nicer. And every now and then I miss this foam coming through the frame. It's just about waiting for that moment, kind of preempting what's going to happen. I haven't used my 70 to 200 this morning so far. To be honest, it seldom gets used these days. I tend to use it more for sort of long landscape shots. But here I've got a 24 to 70 on at the moment, which kind of gives me a wide enough view. and also it's the 70mm long enough to kind of crop in on some nice little detail shots here. It's funny, I'm not sure if a lot of you out there are like this, but I'll sometimes start a shoot somewhere and I'm just not feeling it, and the pictures are okay, but it's just not working. And then I sort of get into the swing of things, and slowly but surely I start nailing those shots that I want. And then once you're up and running, it's great. You kind of see things that you didn't see. I've got to admit, shooting digital, I haven't shot with my digital camera for quite a while now. I'm shooting a lot of film recently, and it's quite a novelty actually seeing the results straight away and being able to fine-tune things. But on the flip side of that, I do enjoy film photography. It's a lot slower process and a lot more, you've got to pick your composition and kind of stick with it and make it work. Whereas with digital, I'm not a huge fan of shooting thousands and thousands of pictures. I still use the same sort of concept of shooting what I want. If it's not working, I'll delete it in camera, and just being a bit more selective. But it is quite a novelty, actually seeing the back of the screen after each shot. And originally this morning I was going to be shooting infrared in the mist, but obviously the forecast didn't do what it said it was going to do, so I did bring my infrared camera with me. So for this final shot, I'm going to try that shot again, but in infrared. Now you noticed I've got my 590 NM filter on, full spectrum infrared camera. It's given me some really wacky tones, completely different from Autumn, but it's looking pretty cool. So I think I'm going to try this last shot in infrared. Just waiting for the cars to go over the bridge, because I don't want them in the top of the frame. Again, settings wise, I've got ISO 160, f16, and about 1 second. And again, I'm waiting for the those patterns to come through. Here we go. Yes, that's excellent. So Autumn with the difference. Well, last year I completely missed Autumn, so it's been nice to get out this morning and shoot this colour. I thought I might have been a bit too late, but I think there's another couple of weeks left yet of this colour, so I might pop out again at some point. But for now, I'm going to pack up and get back. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Next week I'm going to be out shooting with a film camera again, so please join me for that one. But for now, I'm going to end the video, so see you next week.